Hey guys, welcome to another episode. I'm very excited today because we have a special guest with us. We have with us Dr. Abby Medcalf, who is going to talk to us about the true way to shift our negative thoughts and how that can help us just to live a better overall life. So I'm very excited today to get started. Welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness. I am your host, Melissa Oatman from melissaoatman.com. If you are new, I want to welcome you. If you're returning, welcome back. So, good morning and welcome. Thank you for being here with us today, Abby.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I was excited to come on.
It's so nice for you to be here, and I'm really excited to hear your thoughts about shifting negative thinking because we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and there's an actual science behind this. So, I'm very excited to dig into this and to hear more about it. Why don't you start, though, by just giving us a little background about you, who you are, and how you got here today doing what you do?
Yeah. Woof. And that would be the whole hour, obviously, but
Right.
we'll make it short. We'll do the shorter version. But basically I'm a native New Yorker, and I'm here in the Bay Area now, so it's a little weird. But and I am a recovering heroin addict. And that was all during my teen years and very young. And when I got clean and sober, there was, suddenly this new world ahead of me. So I had been, obviously, you don't become a heroin addict when you're 12 and, you're feeling great about yourself or feeling very spiritual or very connected. And of course, using the 12 steps and getting clean and sober, it really led me on this journey to sort of figure out what I wanted to do. And I had originally been going to, I have a bachelor's in poli-sci because I wanted to be a lawyer. That's what I thought I was going to do. And then as I went through treatment and got myself together and started to really explore who I wanted to be and what the possibilities were, that all started to shift and change. And so, I did EST when it used to be called EST. Now it's called Landmark, but I did LifeSpring. I walked on hot coals with Anthony Robbins back in the day when there was 200 people in the room. I mean, I'm old, so it's been a long go. And I did A Course in Miracles, and I just kept sort of on this path of figuring out kind of who I wanted to be and how I wanted to be in the world. And I, went and got a master. I eventually went and got a master's in counseling. I realized I was good at that. I actually moved to the Middle East for a few years in between there. And again, another spiritual awakening. I just think those happen over and over as we, kind of find ourselves. And I eventually went on to get an MBA, and then my PhD is actually in organizational psychology. So I have this sort of interesting mix because I've worked in big business and I work with people directly. And so I have this sort of unique mix. And I think that's what really makes what I do more special, because it's not just what works in counseling, and it's not just what works, in business. It's this intertwining of the two. And I am a voracious reader. And so I'm always using research and what's the best, and then my hands-on experience of people, and kind of mixing all of those things together. And for myself, in my journey of getting through how I used to talk to myself in my head and learning that I had to really change that, how I would, waiting for the other shoe to drop, that kind of stuff. When good things happened, I was often thinking, yeah, how long's that going to last? And so there was just this consistent, I'd meet a great guy and I'd think, too good to be true. And that would happen. These sorts of things would happen over and over. And as good things happened in my life, there was this way I was always thinking, like, I was scared of them. I was scared of the good things happening because it felt like the bad things would be worse. I say to my clients all the time, we fear feeling good sometimes because we feel like, well, if I fall from the first floor of a building, it's not going to hurt as much as if I fall from the 10th floor of a building. And right. So I won't feel that good. I won't hope that much. I won't get way up there because, inevitably the bad stuff's going to happen and then it won't be so bad. And it's why we guard our hearts in love. We guard our hearts. We're worried of people taking advantage of us, and we don't want to say, I love you first. And, all the things that stop us from really we have faith and fear, but we don't have faith and love. We put faith in that and both of them are unknown, right? I don't know what the
You
future
just
is
gave
going
me
to
the
be. It
chills
could
with
be
that.
fabulous or not.
You just gave me the chills with
Oh,
that. Like
good.
you have faith and fear and not faith and love. That's so true. It's like we're
Yep.
doing the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. And that's so
Yes.
true. More faith and fear than we
Yep.
do in love. I love
Yep.
that saying because it absolutely sums it
Yeah.
up perfectly.
Right. Well, faith is right. This belief in something you can't see yet. And so I don't know if the future is going to be negative. Why am I having faith in that? I can't see. Yeah. I can't see all the love either, but they're equal. And it was really, and that really, when I did a Course in Miracles and I was in my 20s then, so about 30 plus years ago, I did a Course in Miracles. And if folks don't know, it's another spiritual, I don't know how to say that, spiritual philosophy and lessons there. It's pretty amazing to do the course. And I'm Jewish, so that was really weird because it's full of Jesus Christ and it's full of, very Christian concepts, but it's really at its core a human concept, which is there's really only two things in the world, love and fear, and you can't be in both at the same time. And so you can choose where you're going. And for me, I took that as a leap of faith for many years. And then I started to read the science. And what was amazing was that when I learned how the brain works, it actually, the Course in Miracles, this woman who wrote the course said that Jesus spoke to her through her, and she wrote this thing. It's supported by science, absolutely, that you can't be in love and fear at the same time. The part of our brain, I'll just go there quickly, but our amygdala, which is really where that fear response lives, people know it as the fight, flight, or freeze, kind of response.
Yeah.
When that part of your brain is lit, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that's in charge of, rational thinking, being logical, long-term planning, problem solving, all that good stuff. And your neocortex, which is where we think spirituality lives, your compassion and appreciation and all the goodies. When the amygdala is lit, it actually looks like there's a blanket over the prefrontal cortex because they cannot be on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in a fear, and that's why, you've had it when you're just agitated about something and really scared and really worried, and someone comes at you with some rational, good ideas for how to handle it. It's like, right. We don't sit and go, oh, that's great. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
We freak out. We're like, I can't do that because of this. And we get because we literally can't think with that side of our brain,
Mm-hmm.
literally. So, and that's actually, we can just jump in right there as far as people really walking away with something. If your partner or your child or your friend or your mother, whoever it is coming to you, and let's say they're complaining about, I don't know, Barb at work, right? Barb, she's so, and she's brown noser and the boss loves her and she doesn't do any work. And right, they're complaining. And this is a sort of classic, right? This kind of thing. And then let's say, I'm complaining to my partner about it. And maybe he's like, well, have you talked to your boss and have you done this and have you done that? Right. And he's giving me all these things. What's happening is this fear part of my brain is lit up. So I'm not listening. And as anybody knows who's tried to make that intervention, who's tried to do that, who's tried to be rational, when I've tried to be rational with my 17-year-old when they're freaking out about a math test, right? Well, you've done okay before. Why don't you just study this way? Right? Nothing. They escalate, they get more upset. And it's really this ancient part of our brain because we're interpreting any stress like that. Any stress, any threat, it's considered a threat. Barb at work, my math test, right? Paying a bill. And it's literally this ancient part of our brain that we're so hardwired. This is that negative thinking that it's a lion, it's a tiger about to eat me, literally. So I think it's a tiger about to eat me. And you come and go, well, should we run from the tiger? I don't know. Let's talk about that. Let's have a rational conversation about the tiger. And so, of course, I escalate. I'm like, there's a tiger, and I start to get really crazy. And that's exactly what's happening. So what you need to do, I call it say yes first, like the little the little trick for this is that you actually want to match emotion, but not tone. Because what you want to do is calm that amygdala first. So for example, if my son is, upset about the math test, and I've done this. I've walked over and said, "Oh, wow, how many chapters you got? Oof, 9? Ugh, that's a lot. That sucks." Because it does suck.
Yeah.
If it's Barb at work, the same thing. "Oh, she's still bothering you? God, I'm so, that sucks. That's such a bummer. I hate seeing you this way. That sucks, blah, blah, blah." When we do that, we are telling the other person that we see the lion about to eat us. We see the tiger. We see the threat. And when we do that, I'm telling you, it works every time. The person calms down immediately. They're like, "Yeah." And you see the breath and you watch the body language. So, "Yeah, I know. Right." And sometimes by the way, it takes 2 rounds. Sometimes they're so amped up. You might have to do it a couple times, but believe it or not, it works. I'm going to say, I'm going to call it the 100% guarantee, unless someone is truly, has a severe mental illness, it's going to work. And the majority of people do not have a severe mental illness. So it's going to work. And so you're matching their emotion, just not their tone. You don't want to escalate with them. You don't want to get up there with them. And it's then and only then that the amygdala, as it's not lit up, as it's not on fire, that then you might ask a question like, "Well, what if you tried with Barb at work? Talk to me. Give me a minute. What if you tried that hasn't worked?" People love to share what hasn't worked. So that'll always work. That'll always get them talking now, but now we're talking. Now we're having a conversation that might be constructive. And then you might say, "Well, is there anything you haven't tried you think you could? Or do is there anything I can do to help? Is there anything I can do to be supportive? Because, I can't be at your work. What can I do?" It's not a time to give advice. I always say, don't sack your relationships. Don't offer suggestions, give advice, or criticize, the SAC. Don't sack, don't offer suggestions, give advice, or criticize. So, what's left is asking questions to try to get that dialogue going. And now the person is fully in their prefrontal cortex. Now they are fully in that other side of their brain, which again, I call kind of the love side. That's where, right? And they're out of the fear side. Now I can problem solve. Now I can think critically. Now I can be rational. And it is really, it changes the game completely. Sorry, I've been talking a while.
Yeah, and I love that, and I think this is such wonderful advice for parents out there, especially because when you have teenagers, a friend and I have been comparing notes about having teenagers recently, and it's a struggle. It's a real struggle, and especially sometimes just to get them to open up and talk to you when they're in that, and you're trying to say, "Okay, what's going on in your head? Like, what are you thinking?" And they just shut down and they don't want to say anything. But I feel like that first need is being met by being heard. When we listen
Yeah,
before we do anything else, and like you said, matching like, "Oh my gosh, that happened to you, that's horrible." It's like it validates what they're feeling, and then they feel like they're being heard. So those are 2 really important things. And you're right, then they can start to kind of come down out of that emotion, and the amygdala calms down. And I think that's a great piece of advice, not only for parents, but also teachers out there. Any teachers out there listening,
mm-hmm.
when you get in a student's face, I've seen so many teachers do this. I'm like, why do you do this? This does not work. You can't have a problem student who's acting out and get in their face. You're just escalating it and making it 10
Yeah,
times worse. And you're going to
yep,
have a big issue. You've got to learn how to do exactly what you're talking about. Students, if they feel comfortable with you and they feel like you're not an enemy, you're actually there to help, then they're more
yeah,
willing to calm down and really tell you what's happening. And usually it's nothing to do with you or your class. It never has
exactly.
anything to do with you or your class. It was like, I had a fight with my mom on the way to school, and then I was late and I got a tardy, and then this happened. It's all of this whole thing that happened to them on the way to your class, but it blew up in your class because of some little trigger. And I think it's a really, really good technique. I think all teachers should be taught, and we're not, because I'm a teacher too
Yep,
during the day, and teachers are not taught
yep,
that. I mean, there are certain
nope,
workshops where you can go, but it's not a mandatory thing, and it should be a mandatory thing because it's like common sense. But most
yep.
people don't know how to do it because we are not taught how to communicate.
Nope.
We should be.
It's you're right on. And my kid's dad is a teacher, and my mom was a teacher. I come from a long line of teachers, and I've done a lot of training for teachers, and this is what I teach. Because and what I often hear from teachers is, hey, well, I'm not supposed to be a social worker. And I always respond. I hear that all the time, and I always respond with, this is about being a human. This isn't about being a social worker. This is about just being human and understanding. And yes, I hear you. Like, you have less and less resources. I mean, the plight of teachers, don't get me started. It's a little pet peeve of mine, right? Just how horrible that all is. But so I get that. That's true. And we have less and less services at schools and all those things. I understand. And more than ever, why to have your classroom really feel like a mutually respected space that you find. And it really are simple tools. I mean, and when you understand that this brain chemistry, I think it takes it out of the soft science and puts it into a hard science. The like touchy feely, I'm supposed to be so nice. This isn't about being nice or anything else. This is about what's effective. And I say a lot, would you rather be correct or effective? Because you can't be both.
Yeah.
So you can be right all day that you shouldn't have to do all this, and there should be more services at schools, or that we should teach this in schools so that you could grow up to be an adult who can do this. And it's not effective to think that way. So what's effective is to have this little tool in your head, always be matching that emotion, right?
Yeah.
And what you said is so true. Just understanding that when someone is having a reaction to anything really that's larger than the thing, I asked John in class if he had a pencil and he lost his, what, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're right. It's not about the pencil.
Yeah.
Just like if I'm arguing with my partner that, they left their dirty socks on the floor, it's not about the socks. It's got, it's never about the thing, because socks, who cares? You'd walk by and pick them up and throw them in the hamper. It takes seconds, like literally, as opposed to, but what's really happening, right? What you just spoke to. And just knowing that, I hope, would want to think, wow, that person now, remember, you can't be in love and fear at the same time. And when two people are in a fear-based response, you've got nothing.
Uh-huh.
So here's this other person coming at you with fear, right? Why do you leave your socks on the floor? You don't respect me, losing it, right? Or this kid in the classroom losing it. And if I come at fear, with aggression, with defensiveness, right? With that, then it's all lost. All is lost.
Yeah.
And so for me, I come from, in the 12-step program, we say, keep it simple, stupid, right? Which I don't like to call anyone stupid, but it's just in our heads, like, keep it simple, just keep it simple. And so I always think to myself, the love-based emotions, right? Appreciation, compassion, gentleness, kindness, love itself, humor, right? The fear-based emotions, defensiveness, interrupting, remember, it's those things too, right? It's, obviously anger, not really anger. Anger is healthy, but rage, helplessness, hopelessness, all those. For me, it's so easy. What I do all the time is I just stop when I'm having an interaction and I check in. I think, what am I feeling right now? And if it's on the fear-based side, if I'm feeling rejected, abandoned, defensive, right? If I'm feeling, I can immediately go, oh, I'm not getting anywhere here. This is not the response. How do I get over here? And so the same thing, if someone's coming at me with something, as counselor, as a psychologist, there's a lot of training, obviously clients. And when I worked in business too, I would work with executives in trouble. They're not happy to see me. They don't have always nice things to say to me. Yeah. But because you're sort of in that frame that people might come to you with defensiveness and anger and lash out, it's you're trained to deal with that. You're trained to not take it personally. You're trained to do that. If, a lot of teachers, like, for example, right? I just came from home, probably getting my own kids off to school. And now I'm going to my job. Don't even talk about this last year, that I don't want to talk about Zoom and everything else, but let's just say normal, just because that was even worse. But, now I have to go into the classroom, right? And maybe I was running late and I didn't get enough sleep last night because I had to wake up early and my lesson plans aren't done for the day or whatever, right? Or I was up grading papers all night, whatever it is. And you get in and now a student is reacting. That's not, you have your day all planned and you have all these things you have to get to. And this is also people at home. Well, I have to do this, this, and this. I don't have time for you to tell me, you want sex right now to your husband or something, right? Or to your partner. Like, I didn't factor that in. I didn't factor in Jimmy's blow up in class to my day. And so there's that like scared feeling. Oh, going to be off track now, or I'm doing a bad job, or I'm not a good wife or teacher or mother or husband, whatever. And really it's our own fear-based reactions that are then sort of, fueling the fire.
Yeah.
And so as much as you can have some mindfulness and really take those moments to not get in that space. And that's actually one of my secrets to stopping negative thinking is positive momentum. I cannot say enough. We go on autopilot way too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just going, you get in the class, you're going, you're doing, and we're on autopilot. And that distraction is actually when things can hit us and we just react. We react, we don't act. And so I am a big proponent of positive momentum and really staying on top of it all day. And it's super easy. It takes literally minutes a day. It just takes intention and attention, right? But the rewards are so great. I can't say enough about it. So basically what I tell people is if there was a car on top of a hill and it started to roll, you wanted it to stop, would you run to the bottom to stop it? Or you would stop it at the top of the hill. You don't want all that momentum at the bottom, but most people let their whole day go and they've been on autopilot and they get home at 4:00 and maybe they drink too much. Maybe they eat too much. Maybe they snap at their partner or their kids. Maybe they're impatient. They're overwhelmed, right? Because the car's at the bottom of the hill and then they think, oh, right, I have to use that tool Abby taught me on the podcast. It's like too late. Yeah. I say with love, too late. 4:00 it's too late. You might as well go take a nap. Instead, really think of that. And what I talk to people about is very first thing when we wake up, there's a couple things you can do to start this. One is what I notice a lot is people's first thought when they turn off an alarm is that it's not enough. Oh, I'm so tired. I didn't get enough sleep. Think of this. So I'm starting my day without enough. Literally my very, very first thought of the day. I'm starting my day and it's not enough. And that's not okay. That's not going to get you off to a good start. The piece that's connected to that is the snooze alarm. I can't say enough about how bad that is for you. The science is there. The research is there. You get sleepier when you use a snooze alarm. We have something called sleep inertia that happens later, or sleep inertia grogginess it's called. And you're actually more tired using the snooze than you would have been had you not. You're also dismantling the cue, right? A cue, this alarm goes off and I wake up, as opposed to I just hit this button over and over. And I always say to people, it's so funny. You hate waking up so much that you do it 5 times.
Yeah. Like that's insanity, isn't it?
Right?
And
it's why do I keep doing this
time? But I had to, I started putting my phone across the room away from me so that I had to physically get out of bed to go turn it off, because now I wake up before it even goes off. But I would do that. I would hold the phone in my hand and just keep hitting that button, knowing how many times I could hit it. But you're right. It doesn't help you any at all. It just makes you more tired.
Yeah. Right. And you're not keeping your very first commitment to yourself for the day. Literally, this first commitment you made that I'm going to wake up when the alarm goes off. You're not keeping. Yeah. So what did your word mean to you the rest of the day? So for all those reasons, and that it's not a way to start your day with positive momentum. And I did the same thing. I put my, back in the day, alarm clock, across the room, because we used to have those. Yes. I put my alarm clock across the room. That's what I had to do because I couldn't get up, otherwise if it was right there. So do whatever you have to do. Have a friend wake you up, whatever your partner, whatever it's going to take, but really, and it takes about 2 weeks, just so you know. It takes about, biologically, it takes about it's really 2.5 weeks, but for your body to adjust, and you will get up, you'll realize how much less tired you are just getting up with the alarm. It's kind of amazing. So that's your very first thing, right? There you go. And then make sure that your first thoughts are not these negative ones, are not, "Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I don't." So I always take a moment and I right there and I appreciate something. And so that might be that, my man Gary, he's nice and warm. He's like a little heater. So I might think of how nice it is to be, maybe he's got me wrapped up in the moment when I wake up, or he's a snuggler. So maybe it's something like that, or how I have very nice sheets. Sometimes I'm just appreciating my sheets. And for some people, you might have to get like into a sitting position to do this because you don't want to fall back asleep. So whatever it is for you, but right there, look around your room, maybe something that you appreciate, like, oh, I love that picture above, across from my bed, or, oh, look, there's a picture of us on our honeymoon, or my kids, or something. And just appreciate for a moment, just feel it. Just
Yeah,
feel
I
it in the
love that.
moment.
I tell
Like,
people to do that all the time. And I always say, I appreciate this warm bed that I'm having
yes,
a hard time getting out of, but I appreciate
yes,
it.
I love it. It's funny because I separate appreciation and gratitude a lot. And I don't love gratitude as much as other folks. I like appreciation. And I really want, you will see a difference if you start practicing appreciation. When we talk about, and I'll just do this as an aside, when we start talking about gratitude, believe it or not, when you're thinking, I'm grateful for my house, I'm grateful for, I have money in the bank, I'm grateful. What you're really saying is, I'm grateful I'm not homeless. I'm grateful I'm not broke. I'm grateful. You're really, in gratitude is this piece of negativity of what's missing, what you lack, because you're comparing it.
I
That's
never
what's
thought about
happening.
it
You're
like that
comparing it.
before, but yeah,
It's
I never thought
interesting.
about that. Yeah.
They've shown it in PET scans that that little part of your brain actually does get tickled when you are thinking that.
Wow.
So what I tell people instead, I know, well, try this at next Thanksgiving. Get this. So you're all sitting around the table, everyone goes around, I'm grateful, for my house, everyone says what they're grateful for. Do this instead. Say what you appreciate right now in this moment, and watch the connection change. I so appreciate looking across the table at my brother, who I haven't seen in a year. I am appreciating the smell of this food right now. It's making my mouth water, and I'm so excited to eat my mom's apple pie that I haven't had. I appreciate people, because it's appreciation is here and now, right this second. I'm feeling it now. I'm not future. I'm not comparing. It's not out there. It's not big. And I'm telling you, whenever I do this at Thanksgiving at my house, the guests are always blown away. They're like, wow, that's so different. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
know.
I was just
It's
thinking about that when I was even thinking the thought of I appreciate rather than I'm grateful for. I appreciate feels better in your body.
Yeah,
Like it physically
it
feels
does.
better when you think about it.
That's
I love
really good.
that.
And you're
It's
right.
a
It's right, because it's
connection.
right. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
It's right here in your chest.
Uh-huh. Yes, I
That's
love
great.
that. I'm going to start doing that from now on. Thank you for that tip because
Yeah,
you're
you're
right. The
welcome.
gratitude part, even when you say that, it is this like, well, we should be grateful because we are close to not having or could not have. But where the appreciation is like, it's there, I have it, it's mine. And it's like a joyful feeling more than like, what
Yep.
if? Because there, you're right, there's that little twinge of a fear based what if I could lose that.
Yep.
Where appreciating is, it's mine, I have it, and it's right here, like that
Yep.
feeling in your heart space. Love that.
Yep. It's great. I know it
Yeah.
really, well, in the 12 steps, we write gratitude lists all the time. Gratitude's a big thing in the 12 steps. So I've written more gratitude lists than anybody on this planet, I think. Like I've done gratitudes forever. And people say to me, well, it's semantics, and it's not. And gratitude is wonderful. I am grateful for I'm in my beautiful office right now. You're looking at it. I do. I feel, but when I walk in the door, I just sit, and I usually focus on something in my office. This is my own space, right? Nobody else had a say in it. And it's quiet in here. And I, often will just kind of walk in and I'll stand at my door and I'll just be in a moment and I'll just appreciate something. And it's really different. You're right. And I feel it. I like how you said that. I do. I feel it. I feel it right in my heart. And that feeling is the positive momentum. And remember what I said, that your amygdala can't get lit up when this other thing is lit up. So right there, I'm starting it, right? I'm starting it. And so there's that feeling. And now let's say I go into the shower, and what I do is I set intention a lot. My intention is to be really mindful in the shower, right? Instead of stressing about all the things I have to do today, because the shower's a toughie. And so maybe I'll sit in the shower and I'll really feel the warm water, and I'll wash my hair and I'll feel how that feels. And I can appreciate there too. Like, not, oh, I'm grateful to have water when other people don't, but oh, this water feels so good right now. It's really waking me up. I feel so taken care of. And I do actually in a warm shower. I just feel really, feel so good. So, but there's that difference. Now I'm out of the shower, right? Now I'm setting an intention, because our intentions change as the day goes on. My intention for how I drive to work is very different than my intention for making breakfast for my children, right? There's a different energy I'm bringing, and you can call that whatever you want. And so now I'm going to, make breakfast, and my intention is to really nourish my kids. And this is my last connection with them before I leave for the day. And I'm going to really focus on it and really make it wonderful. And so it's the very different energy. And I do that all day long. And that's the momentum. And I've timed it because I'm crazy like that. And I call it the 18-second shift, because it's an average of 18 seconds to stop and set intention, to stop and really think about, right, how I want to be walking in this next space. And that's the other kind of key, because this leads right into it, of not having all these negative thoughts, negative thinking, is that when you're like that, your vibrational stance is very different. And, we call this calibration, right? You're calibrated to sort of a higher level. And so I hear a lot people say, well, I was in a good mood, and then my husband came home and he was in a bad mood. So then I was in a bad mood. And I always think to I'm like, why? Why couldn't he calibrate to your good mood? Why was that the other way? Why is that always the dominant, that we go that way? And I get it's biology and it is our genetics that we are geared to be looking at the negative. I understand that, but we know this now. We have knowledge now. So right there, really be thoughtful about, so if my calibration is like higher and I'm really in intention and I'm in intentionality, if my partner comes home in a bad mood, I can really just think compassionately, again, from love. Oh, they're not in a good space. How can I, not being codependent, not like, oh, let me kiss their butt and let me make them feel better. Don't make them feel anything. This isn't what we're doing. Instead, just to be that shining light, to be that warm fire, right? That people want to, come warm their hands up on, instead, what sometimes happens is like, well, why are you mad at me? I was in a good mood till you came home, and, why are you taking it out on me? And we get in this thing again, fear to fear. Yeah. If your partner's coming home in a bad mood, they're in a fear place. So how can you be in that love place? That's all. How can you be in graciousness and generosity and love? And sometimes that just means just a stillness, just a quiet, loving openness that people can feel. Mm-hmm. And I do say that all the time. Everyone is always feeling what we're putting out. And there's a really wonderful researcher, Timothy Wilson, who did this great research. And what they found is that get this, our conscious brains process information at a rate of 40 to 50 bits per second, while our subconscious or unconscious brain processes information at a rate of 11 million bits per second. So people don't hear what you say, they hear what you mean. So if you're aligned in that higher vibration, that higher calibration, even if you're quiet and you're in that openness, that energy is, as we call it, is picked up on. Your partner will know. Just like you knew they were in a bad, I can tell if Gary's in a bad mood, and I could be across the house, right? You know this. You can tell if your kids are, there's like a disturbance in the force, you sort of know. And the same goes the other way though. You know, they're picking up on what you have going on also. And that calming, loving, open energy to really allow them space, that compassion for them. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to change it, but you can just be compassionate. This person's having a hard day.
I think you
That's it.
nailed it right there when you said you don't have to fix it. Too many people think it's our job to fix other people and to fix other people's problems. And I'm guilty of this myself. You're not responsible for fixing it or changing it. Sometimes all people need you to be is just present. They just need you to be
Yep.
there. And like you said, if you're quiet and you're still in this place of feeling good, people can pick up on that. And that sometimes can be the thing that just changes everything, because your quietness and just continuing to be in your high vibration, people notice that. And then they kind of, to me, I've seen people like stop in their tracks, like, okay, what are you doing? Like, why are you in such a good mood? Or like, what's going on with you? And then that's an opportunity for you to say, well, bad things happen, and I understand you're having a bad day. It doesn't have to affect your whole day. We can let it
Yep.
go. But you don't have to fix people. And that is, I think, the biggest thing people need to get into their heads. It's not your job
Mhm.
to fix anyone else.
Yep. And not only is it not your job, it hurts them
Yeah.
because people have to come to their own place. And
Yeah.
that's why I love asking questions.
Yeah.
So you can ask questions, not, why were you in a bad mood when you came home? That's criticizing.
Right.
But asking questions is there, hey, is there anything I can do for you tonight? Is there anything I can get for you right now? You start there, just with service. And then you can sort of ease in, like, hey, anything happened today at work? How was your day? What's happening? How you feel? Or how are you feeling right now?
Yeah. I think
How
when
are
we
you
try
feeling
to
right now?
fix everyone all the time, we're robbing them of their ability to critically
Yep.
think about their own
Yep.
lives. And
Yep.
especially our children. So many parents do that. And I've been guilty of it in the past myself. When you want to go in and fix everything, and then they don't know how to fix things on their own when they get older. So you're teaching them very valuable skills, life skills,
Yep.
in problem solving.
Yep. Even, and I would say this with parenting, even, like we have a particular time we have dinner. So if my kids will come to me in the afternoon and say, hey, can I go to so-and-so's house or can I go whatever? And I'm like, well, we have dinner at 5:30. What do you think? Instead of like, no, you don't have enough time to get there and get back, because I want them to think it through. I can't tell you how many times they've done it. They come in there and they're like, oh yeah, all right, never mind.
Yeah.
They do, like, it's not me being like, laying down the law. It's them critically thinking, can that work?
Yeah.
And can I make that happen? And just sort of reminding them maybe of rules, or reminding them gently like that, like, oh, we ate dinner. If what do you think? It's just, I put it back to them a lot. And I'm so bossy Jewish mother, like you can't imagine. Like, I bite my tongue on a minute by minute basis with my teenagers. And it's, so I mess up all the time, but the majority of the time, and I do have kids who think well and, are kind and considerate, and I'll even ask them that, like, if they see something if I see something happen that's not, or if they open the door. This happened the other day. Max opened the door. He always opens the door for people, which I really like. I think it's just a nice gesture in the world. And I said, and I saw the woman really smile, like, it's, without masks now, I can see people smile in some places, but, she was really smiling, like she was clearly, and she said to me, and he didn't hear it, she said, what a nice boy you raised. And I was like, oh, thank you. That's really great. That feels really good. It felt really good to hear.
Yeah.
And later I said to him, how do you feel when you open the door for people? Like, that woman actually was really, I told him what she said. And he's like, oh, I guess that's not why I do it. He said, I don't know. He said, it feels good. It's nice to do it.
Yeah.
He said, it feels a little connecting without me being, no, he's a boy. He's a 17-year-old boy, without me being all, love, like, I forget the word he used, but airy fairy, I think, was like it. And and so I got him just thinking about why he does that, so he can be more attached to it. Those kinds of things. They're all really simple and small, but it's really how we create connection. It's really how we, again, create this sort of positive momentum where people are really thinking about things. They're really attached to doing them in a much different way.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to circle back to something you said a while back, but I was thinking about this and it just popped into my head again. But you talked about the time it takes, 15 seconds, I think you said,
18.
between 18, in between each thing you do where you're setting a new intention or something.
Mhm.
One of the things I want to point out is I know there are so many people who don't like to plan and they just like do everything last minute, and procrastination is a big thing that a lot of people struggle with. And I would just like
Mhm.
to point out that it's hard when you procrastinate and you wait till the last minute to do everything, to get that 18 seconds in to really switch gears. And I know personally from teaching, like if I'm not well planned, which I usually am, but everyone has their days that they're off, and you get there and you're late and you're running late and you're trying to get everything ready, you don't have that intention to stop what you're doing and say, okay, I'm going to stand at the door and greet my kids when they come in and smile and say good morning, which you usually always do. And it changes the, I don't know, I think it changes the atmosphere and the attitude of everything,
Yep.
because there's some kids, like I had a student one year who wrote me a card and just said, thank you for always saying hi and smiling in the morning. And you don't think people notice those kinds of things when you do it. You're just like, this is just what I want to do every day.
Mhm.
But they do notice those things.
Yep.
And the same thing, if you're rushing always from one thing to another, I think you're not as focused with your
You're
intention as
not.
you could be. And I think that
Mhm.
a lot of things suffer from that and people don't realize that.
Oh, it's such a good point. It really is. And that's why if you always have 18 seconds because if you're running late anyway and you're right to the minute anyway, what's a minute and 18 seconds?
Yeah.
It's not that much. And I encourage when I do work with teachers, I always say to them, make the class part of your intention. Start the day and go, I was feeling really rushed. Anybody else feeling really rushed this morning? Were your parents pushing you, depending on the age of the kids, right? Were you feel, because that's one of the number one complaint of kids, by the way, is feeling rushed by their parents. Number one in the Monitoring the Future study. But anyway, but so have the kid, and then they can talk about that. And then you can say, well, let's set intention right now. What do we all want? How do we want this morning to go? How would we like, or this next class to go? Let me hear from everybody. Give me one word. How would you, what do you want? And I'll start. Inspired, you could say it. What one word, what one energy do you want to bring? It also helps with vocabulary. You could make it part of a lesson if you wanted, but there's so many ways. If you're in a business meeting, when I go in, I often will start the meeting saying, hey, I'd like everyone just to, my intention is that we all come to an amazing agreement today. Even when people have differing opinions, that we all understand that we're here for each other and we're going to have an amazing meeting. That's my intention. What's yours? And I go around, I have people say it. And it really helps because I just had this recently. One of the guys who's kind of long-winded said, well, okay, it's my intention not to talk too much today. And everybody sort of laughed. But during the meeting, he was sort of pontificating. And one of the other people, not me, said, hey, Bob, you're doing that thing, very nicely. And he laughed. He's like, oh God, okay, I lost my intention, and we all came back. And these are like, this isn't an airy fairy business place. This is a major business. And people really appreciate it. And they always come out later. And I'm telling you, the energy shifts, like you said. And this is just more overt. What you're doing is in a way that people might not notice it. And they do notice it, where they might not say it. And so all I'm doing is doing it in a way that people actually say it so they can see it. And then you can ask students later in the day, like, hey, how did it feel when we set intention in that class? And then we didn't in this one. Did you notice a difference? I don't know, ask, find out, do a little experiment. There's lots of ways to really incorporate it, or even just a moment where everybody is really quiet, puts their hand on their heart and just has a moment, that's it. That's it. One thing they appreciate, one thing, whatever. You can have people conspire in the best way. Conspire is with inspiration, right? You can have them all on the team with you, helping you keep this positive momentum so that you're not in this example, the teacher in the front always having to drive that bus, right? Always having, I mean, once a year I used to go into my kid's dad's classroom and I would do a class on something, right? In third grade. And I would go and I would do like beading and something. I have to tell you, I would leave after the one period, and I'd walk outside like, oh my God, what time is it? Oh, I was like, oh, I just straight, I'm ready to go home and nap. And it's like 9:30. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how does he do this all day? Where there's very few jobs like that. I actually have a job like that. The difference is when I'm working with clients, it's one, maybe two, right? At a time, not all this energy of all these
Yeah.
people. It's a very specific thing.
Yeah, it's the first day of school every year. I remember the first day of teaching, coming home like, I don't know how people do this. And you get used to it, but it is the most energetically draining thing. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean it's like you're always
Yeah.
on stage,
Yep.
always performing.
Whole time.
Yeah.
Whole time. You can't stand in front of a class and take a moment to scroll through Facebook. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like you have to be there. And I think people really don't understand that with that kind of profession. There are some other professions like, the nurses I work with also have this,
Mhm.
especially if they work like critical care or something where literally the entire time they're just giving to people, and they can't even barely take time for breaks. But it's that same idea. There's very few jobs like that. People don't understand. They're like, well, I'm busy all day too. I'm like, yeah, but you can be in a meeting and turn off your Zoom. You're not running every meeting. You're not,
Yeah.
you're not managing 30 people at a time all day long. Like they don't, it's hard to understand. I think if I hadn't grown up with a mom as a teacher and then married a teacher, I don't think I would understand it either. It's a culture that's hard to tap into.
Mhm.
But it does, it leaves you at the end of the day in a different space than me too. Again, yeah, it's true. I'm sort of emotionally, yeah, there's that zap that happens and I have to recharge my battery, which I do during the day and before I go home. And I will say that the positive momentum piece does help in keeping the battery not getting fully drained, along with, as sleep and everything else,
Right.
right?
Oh, I think that's so important. And I definitely have to do this. And I think other people, it's important that you do it is, and I've had clients that I've worked with who have a hard time with this, is that leaving the work at work. And I always say that even as a teacher, I know, and we're like, oh, we always care, but I set an intention that I don't take my job home with me because I
Good.
know how detrimental that can be. And so when I leave the school, like I don't take papers home to grade. If I'm going to grade it, I stay at school to do it and do it there. Because when
That's
you
great.
start mixing that, you got to set those boundaries for yourself and make them healthy.
Yep.
So it's important. And especially if you're a work from home person anyway, because I know a lot of people are now with COVID and everything that happened, you got to set that boundary where at this time, I'm done. And I'm going to
Yep.
take mental, like, just clear your energy, clear your space before you come home, because that's what happens is we take our stuff home with us. And then if we had a bad day at work, we end up taking that out on the people we love at home when it had nothing to do with those people. And, so I think
Yep.
people really need to start being better about, I think we're the only like society still where, I mean, we're not the only ones, but we have too long of a work day. In other
Hmm.
countries, their work days are shorter, they get more
Yeah.
vacation time,
Yep.
and they're still paid a good salary and they have health care and all of these things. And we're a
Yep.
society where we have to worry about all that. We have to worry that
Right.
our company wants us to work 50 hours a week and that, we only get 10 days of vacation or whatever it is that we get. People need to be more, I think, intentional about setting the time for themselves and not allowing their work to spill over into that, and having the time for themselves, for their families, for honoring their inner child and playing and being passionate about life. We've got to set that boundary that I'm not going to take my work home with me. I'm not going to talk about my work from, we'd have to
Hmm.
tell my sister this all the time because God love her. She's a special ed teacher. and
Ooh,
we'll go out to dinner and she'll talk the whole time about her class. And we'll have to say, like, okay, you have this much time to talk about it, and then we're
yes,
not talking about it. Like, we're not
right.
talking
It's
about
done.
school. Yes.
Yep.
Because
Where's the rest of your
that's
life?
draining.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's draining on you, and it's
it
draining
is.
on her, and it will
Yep.
burn you out like nobody's business. So you really
Yep.
got to be very conscious about setting that boundary.
Yep. And I'll give you two quick ways I do that. One of them I've been doing forever is the setting intention. When I drive home, I park the car down the street. I don't pull in the driveway because, then everyone knows you're there. I just on my block, and I in my head, I close my eyes. I just sort of take, one breath, kind of a deep breath, get that vagus nerve turned on. Nothing special though, but I close my eyes again. It takes about 18 seconds. So I know you have it. And I personally picture this big door closing, this big, huge door. It's a beautiful door. It's not a mean door, but a big door closing. And sometimes I'll see my clients like trying to get around the sides, like trying to reach in, as I close the door. And I'm like, no, 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 it's okay. Get in, get in. And I just picture literally closing that door completely. And then I set intention for how I want to be when I walk in the house. Because otherwise, I'm bossy, impatient. I'm so impatient. That's one of the things I work on. Task oriented, crazy, again, Jewish mom. So I used to walk in like, where's the dog? Who's picked up the dog poop? Who's done homework? What's going on? When's the bath time? Who's got their cleats? Who got, and I am like directing, and people don't like it.
Yeah.
And every moment sort of pull back. And and instead, and again, yeah, where's the joy? Where's the, wow, I haven't seen my family all day. Where's the joy? So instead I set this intention, like I want to be, fun or whatever when I walk in the house. And then I drive up and I come in, and I will tell you, my son especially, he has said to me before, Mom, did you not stop the car on the way home? Because they know I do this. He can tell from my energy, again, that 50
Yeah.
versus 11 million bits. He can tell that I'm not quite in that space. And then the other thing I do when I first get home, how, as women, especially, we have this, and now that I'm older, getting closer to 60, I really try to take better care of my face.
You
But
don't
right
look it at
before
all.
bed,
You look
oh,
amazing.
you're
Better
very sweet.
person.
Oh my God. Right before bed, I was never doing it because I'm so tired. I don't want to wash my face and put on all the lotions and do all the right things right before bed. For me, when I come home from work, that's my little transition. I go in the bedroom, I go in my bathroom, and I like take off my makeup, and I do all the things, wonderful things to my face that I'm supposed to do, all of my lotions and potions. And I take out my contact lenses, I just like come home, and maybe I change clothes or something, but I have this little, 15 minutes. What does it take? It's not much, but it's this other transition where I'm literally changing my uniform to now like have the rest of the night. So to speak to what you're saying, it's kind of like, even if you work from home, to have that demarcation, to go in the other room and maybe do something like that, brush and floss your teeth. If you suck at doing that right before you go to bed, yeah, that's the best time to do it. But you know what? It's better to do it earlier than not at all.
Right.
So I sometimes floss my teeth the one time in the middle of the day. I admit I don't do it twice a day. Sometimes because it's like, all right, I did it. I did it once today, and I have more energy now than I will later. So that's another way to like sort of do that. I'm taking care of myself. I'm creating a demarcation. I'm really shifting gears mentally, physically, emotionally, and really getting into a different place. So hopefully that helps too. Like something like that to really speak to what you're saying, which is so, so important to have a boundary.
Yeah, what I do sometimes too is when I come home from work, sometimes I will actually work out then. Because if
There
I
you
wait
go.
until later at night, I'll be like, no, I talk myself out of it, and then I'm too tired, and I don't want to get up early in the morning to do it because I want my sleep. So I might do it when I come home from work in the late afternoon. That way, not only does it get done, but then I have a little bit more energy for the rest of the evening because after
Yeah.
working out, I feel better. So sometimes that's a good
Yep.
thing for me.
Excellent. I love that. So anything like that, anyone listening, just think about what yours can be, right? What can your ritual be? Like and it's like a ritual, it's like a
Yeah.
little thing you do to signal your brain that this is now happening. And it's really going to help you hold and keep your boundaries when you do things like this. So it's and you'll be fit, or your face will look nice, or your teeth will be brushed, or whatever else. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. And make it something you love. Make it something you love to do,
Yeah.
even, so that it puts you in that great space, headspace, mood, whatever, before you finish your evening. I love that. Well, I have
Yeah.
loved this conversation. This has been an amazing conversation and so much fun. So, if people want to work with you or they want to follow you because you have great advice and information, how's the best way they can do that?
The best thing to do is to come to the website, which is abbymedcalf.com. It's ABBYMED as in Donald, CALF.com, abbymedcalf.com. Everything is there. The podcast, the blog, the YouTube channels, all the social media, everything is there. There's free things on the shop page, like little learned optimism workshop you can take, or a mindfulness starter kit, things like that are totally free. You don't have to put in a credit card. It's nothing, I'm not sketchy. There's nothing sketchy about it. And, just a lot of free resources that's my goal with the website, to really help people think differently so they can truly feel this connection in their relationships, this ease, this joy. So it's all there. Go on over to the website.
I love that. So I will have the link to her website in the show notes too. You can go right there and click directly there, and it will take you to all those amazing free resources. Well, I
Great.
always like to leave our audience with a little nugget of wisdom. So I'm going to ask you today, if there's one piece of advice you could give our listeners, what would that be?
I had something different in my head earlier, but I really want to come back to the love versus fear, because that really hit for you. And I'm really feeling that right this minute. It would be to check your feelings all the time and see, is this from a love space or is this from a fear space? And if it's from the fear space, take yourself over to the love space and communicate from there. Communicate only from there.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Great piece of advice. And you've given us so much wisdom throughout this whole podcast. I would love to have you back anytime. Thank you so much for being here with us.
That's great. Thank you. I love being here. Thank you for being so gracious.
And I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. As always, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. Please leave a positive review from wherever you're listening. You can leave some stars on iTunes. And the biggest compliment you can pay is to share this podcast with anyone you think might benefit from it. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media. I go live Mondays on Facebook at 6:30 Central, where I do a free card reading. If you show up for the live, I'll pull a card especially for you. And if you want to work with me, you can go to my website, melissaoatman.com. There you'll see all the services I offer, and you can purchase directly from the website and then contact me to schedule. I hope you guys are having a beautiful day from wherever you're listening. As always, I'm sending you so much love and light, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.